Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast Little Girls Aren't Taught This. I am coming to you from beautiful Bali in this episode. This is my first episode of 2023, which I'll be honest with you, I was procrastinating just a little bit. I don't know what it was, but I do know what it was. I was going through a lot and the thought of coming and talking and sharing just felt like really overwhelming. And also, I think sometimes when we're going through things, it can be that overwhelming. It's like all we can physically do is be in the thing that we're going through and just serve ourselves in whatever way we need in that moment. And I know for me, the last few months in particular have been super overwhelming and super difficult. So I just pulled back and I was just in this space of pain and processing and healing and all of the things. So I finally feel like now I'm coming out the other side of that and it feels really nice. It feels really beautiful. And this is just what I wanted to share in this episode is around the healing that I have been doing, because I feel like I have a beautiful blend between masculine and feminine at the moment. And I didn't even realize that was a thing until I was pondering on it in the bath last night. And I realized that actually the split that I have in terms of the healing and the things that I've been going to process and fill my cup up and just help with this moment in my life really feels like it's creating that energetic balance between the softness that I was missing because I was stuck in such pain that all of the softness went, all of the feminine went. But then also this beautiful balance of masculine that's also coming in and really allowing me to move forward again, really allowing me to process all the subconscious, process the experiences that I've been through and have that space to talk through it. So it just feels really nice. So I just wanted to do a podcast episode on that. And I know that you guys sent me so many recommendations for podcast episodes, which is amazing. And I will be doing them over the next few weeks. So I am really grateful and thankful for that. So I just want to talk a little bit about healing because I just think I actually done a post on this on Instagram. Because one of the things that I'm really feeling into, and obviously being in Bali, I'm having a lot of conversations with a lot of people. I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm going to a lot of spaces that are driven with the intention of helping people heal. So it's huge over here. This is literally the island of inner healing, which is so nice. So one of the things I just want to touch on is a few things that healing is not, and a few things that healing actually looks like. And the reason why I just think this is really important is because I think healing has become like a journey, and it seems like it's become an end goal. It's become a thing that we are striving towards. And actually, for me, healing is just a continuation. It's a process. It's not something where, for me personally, I envision this end goal. And I used to always say this with my clients as well. And I think therapy has definitely allowed me to understand this more. But it's not about doing the work and then the work stops. It's just about going into that deeper layer of yourself every single time. And every single time you go through something in life, it's about knowing that you have the tools and the capacity and the self-awareness in order to be able to process that and move through it and heal whatever comes up in that situation for you or that experience. As you move forward and as you go on this process and journey of life, ebb and flow, light and dark, it's always up and down. So one of the things that I just felt like was really important was just to serve this gentle reminder, because I know that we all get caught up, and I know for you listening, you may also get caught up in this thing of healing, doing all of the things, hoping one day that you wake up and you just feel like you no longer carry the burden of the things that you have done for so long. Okay. So these are just a few little things that I sat on and I put into an Instagram post, and I just wanted to talk through them in this episode. So healing is not, okay, thinking there is always more to be done. Now, of course, when we are on this journey of self-discovery, there is always new layers, and tapping into those new layers is so beautiful. It's so rewarding. It's so fucking painful and uncomfortable, but the reward always outweighs the pain, right? Like the reward that we get from any personal development that we do, going to our edges, breaking old patterns, getting uncomfortable, it's always worth it because it welcomes in something else into our life, whether that's a different relationship, whether that's more love, whether that's internal peace within, whether that's self-love, self-worth, whatever it is, it always brings in this new element that is so beautiful. But one of the things that I just want to remind you is that don't always think and believe that there's more to be done. So yes, there's always new things that you may want to try. Yes, there's always going to be spiritual practices or new layers or subconscious beliefs that you can go into within therapy. However, when you're on your journey, just please learn to appreciate where you're at and the healing that you have done, and really have that self-compassion with yourself. And don't always think that there's more to be done. So if you're working with a mentor, if you're working with a therapist, don't always have that notion of, well, when I finish with this coach, I need another coach. When I've done the self-love, I need to do the inner child. When I've done the breath work, I need to do the meditation. Because actually what happens is it just becomes this, long process where you're forever chasing an outcome. And there's potential for you to believe that in order for you to feel whole, you have to keep doing. When actually healing is just really about being. It's about being with yourself. It's about being in the process. It's about being with the parts of yourself, past, present. And then looking at that future part of yourself as well, and really understanding how you can work with all of these parts and gain self-awareness on the parts that aren't serving you, or the parts that need that love, or the parts that need to feel that safety. So that's the first thing that I just wanted to say. Like, it's not always about having to do more. It's just about appreciating where you are and knowing and being curious and being intentional with your healing, being super intentional about the things that you go to, the people who you go to. Please always make sure that these people have the qualifications to support you, to guide you into your edges. Like, that's something that's so strong for me in 2023, is really about making sure that the people who listen to my podcast and consume my content are always being reminded that, the people that go to the people who are qualified to take you to these spaces, because that is so crucial and so important. And I think with the way that the online space is going, it's not regulated. And I think a lot of people are potentially promoting things that they have no right or bounds to be promoting, and working with clients in certain capacities. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So yes, there's not always more to be done. Number 2, comparison to others and their journeys is not healing. And the reason being is because you are your own person. You have your own unique experiences. You have your own trauma. You have your own background, your story. You have your own behaviors and cycles. And comparing that to somebody else's, it's like that classic thing, isn't it? It's like comparison is the thief of joy, but it really is. And, comparison will be the thing that stops you from actually truly healing yourself, for yourself, with yourself, if you are looking at the things that other people are doing. And this felt super relevant because, in Bali, I've been doing ecstatic dances and breath work and all of these things, and it's been amazing. But that also is not the only way that you can heal. And that also does not, that's not what being spiritual is. And that's just something else that's really come to me as well. Me going to an ecstatic dance, or going to a big breathwork ceremony in Bali is no different, or it doesn't make me any more spiritual or anybody any more spiritual from somebody who wakes up in the morning, does 5 minutes of meditation, and then goes about the day just with that connection to themselves, connection to their higher purpose, connection to something higher. Like that's not what it's about. And I really don't want you to start to feel like that's what healing and spirituality is. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing it the right way, because again, that's not what healing is. And I think sometimes I've definitely been in spaces over in Bali where that's a little bit, it can be a little bit preachy, and it can be a little bit like, well, we're doing all of the things, so that makes us like super spiritual, and like we read all of the psychology books, so like super healing. And I'm like, but where's the implementation? Like, where's the practice of what it is that you're saying? So that's just, again, something that I really want you to remember, is that wherever you are up to in your journey, no matter if it's taking you longer or you feel like you're still stuck in old habits, please know that it's not about what anybody else is doing or where anybody else is up to. It's about where you are up to. And when your body and your soul and your mind feel fully ready to work through whatever it is that you're holding on to, that is when your healing journey will go to the next level. Okay. So healing is not a construct that becomes exclusive to your personality. It is not a badge or an identity. And again, this felt super relevant because of where I am in Bali. Everybody is healing and everybody is on this journey. And I think one of the things that's really important to remember is that healing is not like an identity. It's not like oh, I'm healing. Okay. But it's not a part of who you are. It doesn't make up part of your personality. It's not a construct that you can just cling on to. And I think that's really important, because it seems that we can come into this identity shift when we have a spiritual awakening or we are healing, and it just seems like everything is geared towards that, and that kind of takes over people's personalities. So I wanted to just remind you that it's not exclusive to your personality, and it's not like a badge of honor. Actually, healing is something super personal, super private. Like I've said, it's different for everybody, but I think we all are guilty at times of falling into that, I'm healing. And this in a way links back to the first one, because if we always think there's more to be done, it's, without us realizing, we can form an attachment with the notion of healing, which can again push us further away from the thing that we're trying to achieve by healing. So the self-worth, the wholeness, the self-love, the peace, the relationships. Actually, what can happen subconsciously without realizing it is, if you're forever on this path, it can become a part of your identity. So then it's like, okay, what happens if that part of your identity isn't there? If that healing part of you isn't there, that thing that you really have embodied yourself around as you've gone into this new phase of your life. So again, that's just something else. So healing is not feeling as though you're inadequate or broken, because you are not. You are not healing parts of yourself because you are broken. You are healing parts of yourself because you are just coming back home to yourself, and you are gaining more self-awareness, and you are whole no matter what parts of you are showing up, what patterns are playing out, no matter what you've experienced, you are whole. And understanding that healing is not something you're doing to fix yourself because you're broken. It's more to have more self-compassion and more self-awareness so you can live a more fulfilled life. Because essentially that's the thing, right? The more fulfilled you are, the more you're able to connect with people, the more you're able to have those relationships, the desires that you want, the happiness that you crave, the peace in your mind from the thoughts, the inner peace, the self-love with yourself. So you are not inadequate or broken. Healing is not a finish line that allows you to finally feel enough. Again, this is linking to the first one. It's not a finish line of, it's not a goal. There's no end goal to healing. And I think once we realize that, it just allows us more space to really integrate and process and just be, like I said. It's also not a marker or measurement of self-worth. Again, what can tend to happen is if we've got subtle narratives playing out where we don't feel like we're worthy enough, what can tend to happen is we can, and I've saw this in my own experience, it can just manifest in different ways. So you can do the work to break one pattern or cycle where you're not feeling good enough. And if you, without realizing it subconsciously, it can play out in different ways. So my example was when I was in a relationship, I ended that relationship. I thought I had buckets of self-worth. And then actually what happened is that just manifested into exercise and food. And until I actually healed that core wound around self-worth, it just was manifesting in different pockets of my life. So it's understanding that just because you do XYZ and someone else, so okay, just because you might do sister circles, breath work, meditation, yoni steam, movements, and someone else meditates, it doesn't mean that you're any more worthy in this healing space than they are. And it also doesn't mean, if we just look at it from a perception of self, it also doesn't mean you have to do all of the things in order for you to feel like you're doing enough, or you are enough, or you're doing it properly. So again, understanding and catching yourself in those moments where you potentially use that as a marker or a measurement of your self-worth is really, really important, because actually what's happening is this insidious relationship is occurring between the healing and the things that you're meant to be doing in order to gain that self-awareness and feel better, and actually something deep-rooted that's playing out and is just manifesting in the thing that you're trying to do to feel better. So it's just always being consciously aware and just checking in with yourself in those moments. Healing is also not ignoring whispers of your body and rationalizing your past. So I see this so much, and it really pisses me off as a therapist and a coach and somebody who has worked with trauma the same way. It really pisses me off. And I think it's so toxic when I see manifestation spoken about in terms of experiences. That really grinds me in a way that I cannot even explain. So when you're healing, actually the biggest thing is about tapping in and listening to your intuition and being guided by that and getting that stronger sense of connection with your intuition. And the reason why that's so beautiful is because that internal guidance system, there's so much power in it, and our bodies are really portals of insight and wisdom and guidance. And often what happens is when we've experienced things like trauma, or we have been in situations over time that have eroded self-worth, or, eroded that trust that we have in ourselves, where we listen to our internal voice, what can happen is when you begin to come on this healing journey, you begin to strengthen that, you begin to re-listen to that, because that is where your self-awareness, your self-connection, you drop back into the body, you're coming out of your mind, and you're really creating this beautiful blend between your body, your mind, and your soul. And one of the things that healing is not is exactly that, ignoring the things that your body is telling you and rationalizing your past. And this is even so simple as, so this morning I done a Wim Hof breath work, and I didn't realize it, but I had literally got my moon this morning. So I was in bed doing that breath work, and my body was so tired, and just in between one of the sets, my body was just like, this is too much today, just let me be feminine, just let me relax. And I stopped the breath work. So there would have been times where I had a back and forth and really pushed through that. And it's something so simple as an 11-minute breathwork session on YouTube. And I would have just pushed through that, and I would have done it, and I would have finished it, even though my body was just like, I'm so tired, I don't want to do this masculine breath today. Just let me just lie in stillness and just be. So that's such a small example, but it shows you actually that when it's so easy to ignore the whispers of your body, it's so easy to ignore actually what it is and your needs in that moment. So healing is not pushing through what my body is telling me and just doing the breathwork session anyway, continuing for another 8 minutes and trying to force a masculine practice when my energy and my body very much wanted the feminine and wanted stillness. So you will see this play out in other ways. So it's about, for you, you know, what ways are you ignoring where your body is guiding you into something, or if you feel like even something as simple as you're in your inner autumn, or your energy is low, or you're feeling fatigued and you're pushing to go to the gym and do a weight session and your body just wants flow and ease and stillness, taking that option to maybe go to a yoga class or maybe do some simple restorative movements in your bedroom and then going to get a bath, that is listening to your body. And that is crucial on the healing journey. So that, in relation to exercise, this is where it starts to come into all of these practices that we do, essentially, without us always being intentional of, oh, okay, I'm going to sit down and go to this healing thing now. Actually, every moment that we have where we can make a choice is the healing journey. Like, it's playing out in so many ways, because when you choose to give your body the thing that it needs, that is you coming back to that self-love. That is you coming back to that internal guidance and trusting and being your biggest supporter and listening and serving your needs and giving yourself exactly in that moment the thing that is going to make you and your body feel so rested and feel so good. And I think that actually is healing, because you're just deepening that self-connection with yourself. And it's definitely not rationalizing your past, especially your trauma. So healing is not rationalizing trauma that's happened to you. Healing is not minimizing hurtful experiences. Healing is not blocking out anger or trying to find healthy ways to process anger in this. And what I mean by that is trying to turn anger into like frustration, or trying to speak your truth when you're angry, but do it in a way where you keep your voice very low and you're very controlled and you're taking a minute. Actually, that's not really healing. What healing is allowing yourself to feel the full range of human emotions. So if you are angry, there's so many practices that I do with my clients to be able to release anger. So you can have anger sessions, releasing sessions. You can go into your car and scream. You can do free writing where you fully express how you're feeling and you let it all out, and it's a controlled way, but you're really tapping in and giving that emotion space. And that's so beautiful. And it's, you know, that is healing in itself, because all parts of us have a seat at the table. It's not just the parts of us that are pretty and controlled. And I think especially for women as well, because there's a lot of stigma around women and anger and women and expressing these negative emotions. And actually, that's not healing. Healing is doing it all, and healing is definitely not rationalizing your trauma. Like that, no, will never happen with me or my clients. We will never rationalize. And healing is not forgiving people who've caused you deep pain. So I think there's a lot of forgiveness talk in the online space and the healing space. And I think actually I used to say to the girls in the Divine, because we used to do a forgiveness module, if it feels too difficult to get to the point of forgiveness, what feels like the one down from that or two down from that, or even like what's the emotion that you can get to if forgiveness feels like it's too much? Because you don't have to forgive people. You don't have to forgive people for pain that they've caused you. But how can you find a way to stop carrying that around? How can you heal within yourself and heal those parts of you if forgiveness doesn't feel like it's an option? And that's absolutely fine. So a good coach or therapist will also offer that alternative solution. So healing looks like patience, self-compassion, and self-belief. Doing what feels good and safe for you. Speaking your truth and being seen. Self-understanding. A spectrum of emotions, like I've just said. Processing in the right spaces with the right people. So crucial, so important. Please, if you're doing any trauma work, please make sure that the people you're working with understand trauma and, they have the qualifications to be able to take you to those spaces. So this is something that's really interesting because for me personally, I'm not specifically trauma informed. However, I've done a lot of work since the age of 21, working with high traumatic situations, people who've experienced a lot of trauma. Obviously, I worked in the criminal justice system. So I've really seen like the underbelly and the dark side of society for a long time. And I got a lot of skills dealing with trauma, being able to respond to trauma, being able to understand trauma. Obviously, now I'm a qualified psychotherapist and I do a lot of reading in my time, academic reading around trauma, being able to understand it. And I think also one of the other big things for me as a practitioner is I'm really comfortable with my boundaries and I really honor them. And if something doesn't feel comfortable for me, I won't guide my client into that space. So being trauma informed doesn't always feel like it's the most important thing. However, please make sure that person or anybody that you work with has some form of qualification, whether they're a therapist, a counselor, whether they're trained in breath work, are they trained in trauma informed breath work. Just please look at the credentials of the people that you're working with, because I think there's so much going around on the online space. Like, it feels really important. And this year I plan to begin my journey to be trauma informed in breath work, which is so beautiful. I'm going to train in that modality. So I am able to take my clients, I'm able to work with the head and the subconscious, basically what I'm doing in Bali. And then I'm able to guide and drop into the body and really work with the body to release trauma and all of that beautiful, magical stuff. So I'm so excited for that. Healing looks like boundaries. Healing looks like feeling somewhat a loss of control for a short period, which, when things are unraveling, that can happen. We can feel a loss of control because things around us are crumbling or things are shifting. And the way that we have lived for so long and operated for so long it's fallen away. We are shedding, and that can be very uncomfortable. And even if those parts of you have caused you pain for so long, even if those people in your life have caused you pain, when they provide a comfort, then it's scary to let go of that. It's scary to let go of all that you've ever known. So it can feel like you are losing control for a short period. And I always remember with my trauma clients as well, they would have this period where everything literally felt out of control and things got a little bit more intense in terms of the trauma. And, they had these short periods, I'd say like a week or 2 weeks, where they didn't want to continue and things just felt like it was overwhelming. And that really was like the process and happening of the trauma releasing it. And then with the guidance and with the sessions and with, the right spaces, they would move through that. And then what would happen is they would come out the other side of that, and basically like that releasing of the trauma would happen. So they would have that short period where things felt out of control. And even my self-love clients, like every single time we've done the deep work, because I'm known for doing deep work, every single time we do deep work, we're really shedding layers and layers and layers of the self and going into parts of the self that have been there for so long. And the subconscious mind has just created all of these barriers and all of these walls and all of these protective mechanisms to provide that element of safety. And, letting go of that can be really difficult, because essentially what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, it's safe for me to lose these walls. It's safe for me to feel again. It's safe for me to go there. And, that takes time, that takes compassion, that really takes self-trust. So these little periods that are sprinkled in, they are normal. And that is kind of what healing can look like. So also your mind, body and heart are reconnecting. So you are able to drop into your body, you're able to really be in your body, and a regulated nervous system as well. So I was going to sneeze then. A regulated nervous system. So that means you will be able to rest. That means your sleep will be better. You will not be operating on your body in high stress, your nervous system in high stress. So that is really beautiful. And again, this is something within the work that I do with clients that I am really starting to understand, because I have just been through it myself, of my nervous system being so dysregulated. So I've just learned what that looks like, what happens, how that feels when we feel dysregulated, why we can get to that point. And I just feel like all of these things that I've been through in the last few weeks are really giving me such crucial tools and insight and knowledge to just like deepen the work with my clients. And I love it so much. Like, I'm so grateful and thankful. So that's a little bit about the healing. And then also the other thing I just wanted to talk about was the things I've been doing, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, in Bali. That's been a beautiful mix between masculine and feminine. So for me, the masculine very much feels like when I'm in the head with my practices. So that very much feels like, for me, my weekly therapy sessions that I've been having. So I have been having weekly therapy since end of October. And when I say it has brought things up, it has brought so much up that I was not even aware of. It literally has overwhelmed me beyond words. So I actually thought I was hurting, and then I started therapy, and instantly it just took me to a new depth of pain. And I was like, I've never even been here. Like, I don't even know what to do. But I pretty much jumped into that on like the second session. So I know I was so guided. I was ready for that. Like, I literally, that was my up leveling, because I was so ready, and how quick it all came to the surface. I was like, holy shit, this is wild. It usually takes many, many, many months. Well, not many months, but it can in therapy take people a lot longer, especially if they're not really aware. But I guess I was ready to face my inner demons, my wounds. Wow. So the reason therapy feels like a masculine healing practice for me is because it's very much just sitting and talking through things. And part of what my therapist offers is hypnotherapy. However, because I'm not in the UK, I haven't been able to get to sessions with her. And also there's just that much to like process and talk through in every single session. I haven't really had the space or the opportunity to practice that hypnotherapy, but I will do 100% at some point. So for me, it feels very masculine, because therapy is that space that I go to and I talk about what's alive for me. I talk about the things that I've been processing in between the session. I talk very much about, the realizations that are coming up from my feminine practices that I'm doing. And it's really that space where I have someone mirror back to me the things that I'm saying and my own blind spots. And this is so incredible to be on the receiving end of this and truly understand the power of therapy and having somebody hold space for you, or even coaching. To be honest, the way I do my style of coaching is very similar in that way. So it's really amazing, because it's this mutual relationship where it's like a back and forth, and it's exploring things that are coming up, and then it's tapping into subconscious patterns that are coming up, and questioning behaviors and questioning parts of myself to allow me to get that deeper understanding. And there's not much required of my body in these sessions. Again, when I start the hypnotherapy, that might be a little bit different, but there's nothing really required of my body. There's no dropping in, there's no feeling into things. It's just very much this beautiful dance of talking without intention and noticing what comes up in the sessions, which is another really beautiful thing. It's just a process of just free talking in the sessions. And within this free talking, so much is coming to light and being unraveled. And also it feels like therapy will trigger a lot of after processing and actually bring up a lot of emotion for me to be able to then go away and process. And that's where my feminine practices are really coming in to help me balance the things that are coming up in therapy. So in terms of my feminine practices, that's where I'm really drawing on my spirituality at the moment. So it's a lot of breath work, it's a lot of stillness, it's a lot of dropping into the body, it's a lot of connecting to the higher powers that I, wholeheartedly believe in. It's really feeling into the energy of Mama Bali and all of the things that she's offering me. And it's really capturing moments of just internal stillness and observation. And whether that's sitting in a coffee shop and just gazing, just simply gazing and thinking and pondering, no phones, just being present and allowing that to ruminate and all of these things that I'm really figuring out. Or whether that's a Kundalini session, whether that's free writing, how I feel, and like letters to people in my life, really healing letters, really healing conversations. That for me is I'm creating this beautiful blend of the two, where I'm working with the energy and I'm working with something that feels a lot bigger than me, that really allows me to draw in and draw into the body, really get into the body, really get into that uncomfortability. And then I'm also able to ground and make it make sense for the past and the future, if that makes sense. So it's this really nice blend that I think I have of masculine and feminine healing, and also in between having no things that are classed as healing, having no therapy sessions. Obviously I have that once a week, but no therapy, no Kundalini, no breath work, just joy, dancing, watching good documentaries on Netflix, just being in my own energy, going to the gym, like all of that nice stuff. And also in terms of exercise, that's been another really big healing thing for me in Bali. And again, the CrossFit very much felt like me and my masculine, doing the yoga in Ubud, doing the Kundalini, doing the ecstatic dance. That's me mixing and bringing in my feminine, and again blending the two, because I like to go and lift heavy shit in the gym, and I like to do CrossFit, and I like to be very much in my masculine in that way. I like to go and punch some bags in the gym and do some Thai. And I also really like to do sensual dancing, and I also like to do chants and do Kundalini, and it's so nice. So I think the reason why I'm just sharing that is because it's really allowing me that balance to process all of the things that I need to process. And I think I'm just sharing that because for you, it's, this might serve as a seed to start thinking about how can you bring a balance of masculine and feminine into your healing journey. Because sometimes I personally find anyway, if I'm just in the feminine, it can get like super emotional and super tiring, and I'm always fucking processing, and I'm just like, just like that floaty feminine. And there's a time and a place for that, but also like I like to be very grounded. I really love that balance between, that's who I am. I love that balance, Scorpio. I love that balance between masculine and feminine. And it's just an invitation to think about the things that you can do. And also, I was very in my masculine when I come to Bali. I was deeply, deeply hurting. I was just so numb. I was unable to connect to my body from my shoulders down. I'd done a breathwork session with Matt Gunn, and I was literally unable to just drop into the body, because I just felt like once I went there, it would never stop. And I remember saying that to Matt. I remember saying, I just feel like if I go there, it will not stop. I didn't feel safe. And what was so beautiful is when I done the breathwork session with Matt before I came to Bali, he asked me what I needed, and I struggled at first to say my needs. I was like, I can't say my needs. I can't be met in my messiness. Like, I have nobody who sees me and just meets me in my mess. And that is just what I need. I need that more than anything because, I'm the woman who's to everybody and around me who's strong and, has her shit together, and she's a therapist and she understands herself and she understands everybody else. And I'm just like, and she does self-love coaching. And sometimes I just want people to strip back the labels and just see me in my suffering and just see me in my mess and not judge me for that and not have any expectations and just be there and just provide that safety. And Matt, he just done that in a way that I literally have no words for. Like, I feel emotional thinking about it now. And I just said to him, I just want to feel safe in a male presence. I just want to feel safe. I just want to feel emotionally safe. And he was like, what would you need? What do you need in this moment? And he just hugged me. Like, I just said, I just need a hug. I just need to put my head on a man's chest. And I just need to, for just a moment, just allow myself that emotional safety. And we done it, and it was beautiful. And we done it there was no expectations, there was no icky energy, there was no ego that came in. It was just a pure moment of masculine and feminine merging, and it was fucking beautiful. And he just like put his arm around me, and I just like rested my head on his chest, and we just sat for a few moments and just like our breathing matched, and we were just really present, and I felt myself start to soften. And that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. But it was really interesting how I was just unable to go into the body. I was just so unable to do it. And, now I'm still blocked a little bit. Like, I still feel it. Like, I think there's so much to process that, and there's so much hurt, and there's so many walls that are there. There's so much inside of me that I have created without realizing it over the years to just shield and put this energy, protect me. And I never ever realized it until I started therapy. And unraveling that is, it's difficult, but you know what? It's happening, and it's beautiful. And again, it's a process. I'm not in a rush. I'm not going to these Kundalini sessions and being like, why am I not having the same response as everybody else? I'm just accepting that I am where I am at, and I am taking my time and having compassion. So yes, it's beautiful. And I feel like for the processing of what I've been through, it really feels like that masculine and feminine is providing me with the perfect balance that I need at the moment. So that is today's episode on healing, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the first episode back of 2023. It was a pleasure to be back. I really was procrastinating, but I'm back now. And it feels really nice. And one of actually my objectives for 2023 is to really be consistent with this podcast, because last year was just a clusterfuck in itself, to be honest. So many amazing things, but when you just look back on a year and you're like, yeah, well, I thought 2020 was there in the books, and then I thought 2021 was there in the books, and then I'm like, 2022, she came for blood. She did. But she has birthed this new woman, and I am forever grateful for that. So here we are, 2023. So I shall be back next week for another episode. I say next week, actually, it'll be Sunday. I like to put my podcast episodes out on a Sunday. So I shall be back then. with a brand new one. And yeah, I look forward to it. If you love this episode, please share it on the socials. Please tag me, selflove.lydia. I'm also on TikTok, selflove.lydia. And if you are interested in working with me, I now offer therapy sessions. So I've opened my private practice and I have an offer on for February. So instead of them being 75 per hour, they're going to be 50. And yes, I am just working with women on all things self-love, self-worth, body image, all of that beautiful, gorgeous stuff. So if you would like to work with me in that capacity, or if you want the different capacity of coaching, I am taking one-on-one self-love coaching clients again. So it's all come full circle. Honestly, there's so much I could talk about. I could literally do a podcast episode for like an hour and a half, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to keep it to 45. And on that note, I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. And I shall be back next week with a brand new episode.